Hello, it's Barrett Vickery, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the duality of emotion. So what does that mean? Duality means two. So there's two different ends to the spectrum of both emotion and choices and thoughts that we have. The idea here is that all of the thoughts, all of the choices that we make, all of the emotions that we have are some permutation or some flavor of either love or fear. And so duality is the spectrum between fear and love. And so we have these two opposite poles, these two interacting polarities in our life experience. And if we can understand that our thoughts and our actions are coming out of love and fear, and we're able to identify which polarity we're primarily experiencing, then it becomes a lot easier to have emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, okay? A key assumption here is that whenever you have a thought that is coming out of love, it's typically going to work out a lot better than a thought coming out of fear. If you think about the world's most successful people, what they're able to do is they're able to make decisions out of love instead of fear. Being in a place of love can also look like being in a place of confidence, being in a place of self-assuredness, being in a place of self-awareness. So love can show up in many different forms, and that's why this is a spectrum, okay? And so we're kind of, we have all different types of emotions that exist over here. One of them could be self-awareness, like we said. Self-awareness, compassion, humor lives over here on this end of the spectrum. Fun lives on this end of the spectrum. Flexibility lives over here on this end of the spectrum. Creativity. So basically, all of those good things that we want live on the end of the love end of the spectrum here. So that's why I say that all leaders are able to make decisions based out of love. It could be a decision based out of creativity and lack of fear. So fearlessness, having no fear, fearlessness, is also on the side of love. So when you act from a place of fearlessness, you're acting out of a place of love as well, because you are acting from a place of knowing, a place of faith in the process of life itself. And that knowing is very attractive to the universe. That kind of self-confidence is not only what universal laws of attraction run on, but it's also what humans run on, right? Who do we think is most attractive? People that we find attractive and that for some reason we find influential are typically people that have that are expressing creativity, people that have lack of fear. They have flexibility and humor. Oftentimes, and oftentimes fun. But it doesn't necessarily have to be this. Also, it could be like stoicism, right? Like being stoic, being strong in the self and confident in the self. This is all an expression of love, okay? So when we make decisions out of a place of love, out of a place of self-awareness and compassion, we will typically have better outcomes than if we're making decisions based out of fear. So what are decisions based out of fear? Well, is it always like being afraid of something that's going to happen? Not necessarily. Again, there's many different flavors to what fear manifests as. Number one is stress, okay? The number one way that we experience fear in the 21st century is stress. Stress, anxiety, depression, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, social anxiety. Any type of anxiety or fear or thought that is based in fear will feel bad, right? So this is how we use this as a duality of emotion, okay? So this is an emotional spectrum. And so this is a basic understanding of duality, is every single thought that we have, every choice that we make is rooted somehow in love or fear. Now, could you be in a place of stoicism, which is maybe close to the center here? Could you be in a place of contentment, which is maybe just a little bit over onto the side of love? Yeah, you're still on the love side of the spectrum of thought and decision making. So the idea here is that we want to develop the ability to become aware of when we're acting out of love and when we're acting out of fear. And then if we're acting out of fear, to change the narrative. Literally going inside of our own head and saying, okay, is this a thought of stress and anxiety? Well then, by definition, by default, again, going back to that original presupposition, by default, if we're having a thought of anxiety, depression, or low self-confidence, then it doesn't even matter if it's real. It doesn't matter if it's true. We're going to have a better outcome if we can change the narrative in our own head to reflect love, to reflect self-awareness and compassion for self, to be flexible with yourself as opposed to being so rigid and having to be perfect all the time. So we can use love as an antidote to fear. Love and fear can't exist in the same place at the same time. So what does that mean? When you're feeling really grateful, you can't feel fearful. So by definition, you can only be in really one place on the spectrum at a time. So we have a choice to make. Do we choose to make a decision and have a thought out of fear, or do we choose to make a decision and have a thought out of love? And the important piece of this is that our entire life hangs in the balance of our ability to make these decisions. And this is essentially a lot of the science of emotional intelligence. A lot of the science of emotional intelligence is being able to regulate this emotional spectrum and choose love. Choose love over and over. Oftentimes it's said in a different way. Choose compassion, choose flexibility with self, choose creativity, choose fearlessness. And remember that these things can't exist in the same place at the same time. So you can't experience creativity and also experience stress, anxiety, depression, etc. Okay, you can, like, this can be a precursor, and often it is. Oftentimes fear is a precursor to creation, right? So if you're a creative, you're creating a piece of art, a lot of times you'll experience fear as a kind of precursor in the beginning of that. But once because if you're an artist, once you get into the process, the fear disappears, right? That's the idea, is that fear, stress, and anxiety can't exist in the same place at the same time as love. And so love is an antidote to a lot of the fear that we experience in our life. And so if we can train ourselves through meditation and journaling and reflective practices to become more loving, then we can experience more happiness. Again, this is connected to our emotions. We can experience more emotional well-being by choosing love on a more regular basis. And of course, as with everything else, this is a habit that you get better at over time. All right, let me know what you think of this idea. Emotional duality. Everything exists on the spectrum between love and fear. Every single thought, choice, action, emotion that we have is somewhere on the spectrum. And if we can choose love more often, we can experience a lot more of a fulfilled life and have way more of the things that we want: success, money, influence, connection with others. All the good things exist on this spectrum of love. Remember, love encompasses all of those great things: humor, fun, flexibility, creativity, stoicism, discipline, hard work. These are all in the spectrum of self-love. All right, I love you. Thank you for watching this video and joining me on this journey. If you like this type of content, follow me and do some of the meditations that I've put out. Do some of the practices that will help you develop love as a skill set, because again, this is a habit that you develop over time, and it's a skill that you get better at over time. The world's most successful people all know this. It's why they all train themselves on a daily basis through positive morning routines, through having healthy habits. This is the game, okay, is developing this awareness and being able to apply it to life on a daily basis. Okay, thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye.